While I'm still getting set up here, talk amongst yourselves and answer the question: if you could have any superpower that you wanted, what would it be? Just give me a couple seconds and figure that
Any superpower? What would it be? That I could see without glasses? By the way, totally messing up the lyrics to the song because I'm having trouble singing and I'm in the first row. So yeah, I need some glasses. But if I get glasses, then I'll look like the church ugly dork. So yeah, that I could see without glasses and have 20/20 vision.
So you'd have 20/20 vision as a super.
Yeah, but without glasses. Because without glasses, then I'm not the church ugly dork.
I think you should get glasses.
out. Here, clap one. Here, clap twice. It works so good. What do you guys have? Any really fantastic superpowers that you thought? Anybody?
I like Olivia's.
What was Lydia's?
I would want to be like immune to all the elements. Like
Immune?
fire, water, like
Oh.
you know, like
Okay.
all of you afraid of natural disasters.
That's a good one.
You got teleportation back here.
Teleportation. That's good. Did anybody say magneto power? Oh, that's the best one. I don't know. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Today we're going to get started with Jonah 2, a prayer of desperation. If you have been following along with us, you know kind of the background of where we're at. Jonah received a call from the Lord to go to Nineveh to rebuke them and tell them to follow him. And he said, no, not going to do that. Ran away, got a ship to head to Tarshish. The ship was overcome with a storm. The crewmates all said, what's going on with this? This has to be supernatural power of some kind. And they looked to Jonah and said, this has got to be you, right? This has to be your Lord. And Jonah said, yeah, probably. Go ahead and throw me overboard. I think that'll fix your problems. And we end chapter 1 with the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. And then we start with chapter 2, which is where we're at, which is Jonah prayed to the Lord from his God, to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish. And as soon as I read that, my first question is, what is it like inside of the belly of the fish? We always see all kinds of different artist renditions of it. I'm sure you've seen probably something, well, maybe, could be. It's the fun of our TVs. Well, there's a real cute artist rendition up here. Maybe it'll pop back up. We'll give it a second. It's possible. It worked. Maybe. Oh, come on. Well, okay. It doesn't like that. I think that's what it is. There was a real cute artist rendition. It looks like watercolor, right? It's a real beautiful caricature. Then we are left to something more like this, which is what I kind of think of. For a long time, I thought of Jonah. And it's, he's got in this giant room, there's light, there's like a little lamp that he gets to, pray from at a desk, and he's writing down this beautiful prayer to the Lord. But chances are that's probably not what it looked like, right? I mean, when you said swallowed a fish, we get literally 3 sentences that talk about the fish, and it doesn't say anything about the size of the fish. But I imagine this probably isn't what it looked like. If you are chronically online, you might have seen, there's some AI renditions out there of what it looked like inside of the belly of the fish. Let's see if that plays. Maybe not. I don't know. There we go. He's inside of the belly of the fish, right? Like maybe it looks something like this. Maybe it looked kind of like this gothic sort of image of him getting spit out by a fish. Maybe that's more size, right? It looks like a giant catfish, maybe Loch Ness monster size. But I don't still think this is this is after the fact, but it's probably not an accurate representation of what Jonah went through. This isn't the TV messing up this time. This is actually probably what it looked like for Jonah's experience. So, you're depressed, you just jumped off of a ship or were asked to be thrown off of a ship, right? You've given up on life, you know God's chasing and you're left with this pitch black. You don't know where you are. The last thing you knew, you were probably struggling to breathe. You're taking in your last breath, and now it's damp. It probably smells real bad, like decay, like fish guts. The air is probably really humid. You're probably choking on air. It's probably really cramped. You probably can't stretch. Your muscles are atrophying. You can't. Maybe feels like you're in a straitjacket. And then to top it all off, fish are cold-blooded, so it's not warm. You're probably cold if you're in the deep sea. It doesn't say what time of year this was, right? But Jonah was not in a comfortable situation. So he went from being depressed and thinking it was the worst thing ever that God called him to go to Nineveh to preach, and he ran from it. And then he had accepted his death and jumped off of the boat. And now he's left in a worse situation than where he woke up in a worse situation than where he left off. I can only imagine Jonah's reaction to this would have been like, thanks God, in the most sarcastic way. So as we leave this, right, he wakes up in the belly of the fish. It says 3 days, 3 nights. Where this prayer occurred and where his wake up occurred, we don't really know. But that's where we get the next 8 verses, which is 2 through 9. I'm going to read it in CSB, but feel free to follow along in the Bible translation of your choice. Or if you so feel the call, close your eyes and just listen to me read it, and imagine yourself as Jonah waking up in the belly of the fish with that black screen that we just showed you. I called to the Lord in my distress, and he answered me. I cried out for help from deep inside of Sheol. You heard my voice. When you threw me into the depths, into the heart of the seas, the current overcame me. All your breakers and billows swept over me. And I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look once more towards your holy temple. The water engulfed me up to the neck. The watery depths overcame me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. I sank to the foundation of the mountains. The earth's gates shut behind me forever. Then you raised my life from the pit, Lord my God. As my life was fading away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. Those who cherish worthless idols abandon their faithful love. But as for me, I will sacrifice to you with a voice of thanksgiving. I will fulfill what I have vowed. Salvation belongs to the Lord. So that's the whole 8 verses. This is the first time that Jonah actually talks to the Lord in the entire story of Jonah, right? All the rest of the time it's been God talking to him. It's very poetic in nature. It's very death-centered. He brings out Sheol, which is like Abraham's bosom. It's kind of like all dead land kind of deal. And my biggest takeaway from reading this the first time with my glasses that see everything very literally is that it feels like he's kind of blaming God, and very much kind of like whining like a scared little kid almost, in the best way possible, I suppose. Which is like you have verse 3, you threw me into the depths. When I first read that, I see as very accusatory. And then you have verse 4, I have been banished from your sight, which once again feel like it's very much like the victim mentality, right? He's acting like he has nothing to do with the fact that these things are happening to him. And there's also a lot of I language in there. I cried to the Lord, and I said, and I will look once more, and I sing. And it's very self-centered. He's talking about himself a lot when he's speaking to the Lord. And overall, to me, it kind of felt like an imperfect prayer. So my next step was, is this an imperfect prayer? So our best example of prayer, I think, in the Bible, or one of, is the Psalms. So what kind of Psalms do we have out there? We have Psalms of ascent, Psalms of lament, Psalms of thanksgiving, Psalms of praise, wisdom, prophecy. There's other themes of Psalms that people will categorize them in. But I think one of the things that we're dealing with here, if we were to try to place this in the presence of the Psalms, would have been the Psalm of thanksgiving. And we've got pretty good examples of those in the Bible. We got Psalm 30, 107, 138, 66, 136. There's several more, and then there's several that overlap categories based within the psalm. But generally speaking, psalms of thanksgiving kind of follow a theme. There's an introduction, there's a statement articulating past distress, a cry to the Lord for help, and then an acknowledgement of God's acts and deliverance. So the question then comes, does Jonah's prayer fit this theme? So that would mean that first we have an introduction, which verse 2 simplifies it that he was being thrown overboard, he was headed to the depths of the grave, and he was saying that he was thought he was going down to join the dead, right? Going down, like James had talked about in the previous weeks. So I would say it fits pretty easy standard hit, but the first verse hits that theme of an introduction. Next, we're brought into verse 3 through 6, which is in a statement articulating past distress. And Jonah definitely describes his distress, but one of the things that we see is that he sees God's hand of judgment playing a place in his life. So when he's saying, "You hurled me into the depths," he's looking at that more as God's hand of judgment on his circumstances. And then he also feared that death would separate him from God. So overall, it is a pretty, he's still bringing in the elements of the water and the seaweed, and, wrapping around his neck, but his distress was very real and vivid, and he explains it very well in those verses. So I'd say, once again, it meets that statement of articulating past distress. Then a cry to the Lord for help, which Jonah focuses on in his cry for help, and at the point of death, when his life was fading away, ebbing away, depending on the verse, he cries out to the Lord for help. It's very clear. It says that I remember the Lord, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. So once again, I'd say it hits the mark. And then verses 8 and 9 is an acknowledgement of God's acts and deliverance. And in Jonah's case, God was really gracious, right? He saved him with the fish, and spared his life after Jonah was basically disobeying God and kind of running away. So he acknowledges God's acts, and then he additionally commits to sacrifice, to live up to his sacrifice with a voice of thanksgiving and fulfill what he had vowed, because salvation belongs to the Lord. So that's great. Then we've got to look at, are Jonah's words his own? As I was looking through and reading and rereading this prayer, it's only 8 verses, so it's kind of feels like there's not a lot there. The question was, as you look at different cross references, every single verse cross-reference out to a psalm, and that's not uncommon if you're looking at cross-references in your Bible. Something almost always relates to a psalm in one way or another, but it felt a little excessive to me on this one. So I just want to go verse by verse and see what parallels